My name is Justin Rich, and I'm the demographer for Anaheim Union High School District, working on this particular project. Tonight, I'm going to present info regarding the 2020 census and the district's trustee voting areas. Just for a second here, I want to define exactly what this process includes. Trustee voting areas only affect how trustees are elected. It determines where they must reside and who can vote in those particular elections. Redistricting is the process for making adjustments to balance population, and that is what we're going to be talking about tonight following the release of 2020 census data. For anyone that didn't hear me pointed out before, there is translation that is available down at the bottom of the Zoom screen. To the right-hand side, there is a button there for interpretation, and that will give you the audio interpretation. I misspoke before of what I am presenting. I'm going to share my screen now. Can everyone see that okay? So, like I mentioned, this has to do with the release of the 2020 census population, and I'm going to run through the results of our assessment. So, real quick, following the release of census data, California law requires that we do an assessment of the population balance to determine if the district's voting areas are still balanced in population. If they're not, then we're required to make adjustments, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. This timeline was compressed, I will note, just because of COVID and the late release of census data. And so that resulted in some delays, but we are still on track to approve, if necessary, any adjustments to the district's trustee voting areas by February 28th. So the final data, as I mentioned, was released on September 27th. That was about 6 months later than we were anticipating originally. Some key highlights from that is the fact that the district grew by about 3.3% in terms of total population. Additionally, what it showed is that the proportionate share of the Asian population increased as well. And we've included a table here that compares by each one of the trustee areas, the 2010 census to the 2020 census. So in the far right-hand side, you can see how those areas grew, and you'll notice that trustee area 2 grew at 9.6%, while trustee area 1 declined by 1.5%. What that equates to is a difference or a variance between that largest and smallest trustee area of about 9%. And so we'll focus a little bit more on that. On this following slide, we've included a table that shows, based on 2020 census data, it shows the demographic composition of the district. The largest protected class of voters is the Hispanic Latino population, and the second largest is the Asian population. On the following slide, we've included the citizen voting age population, and this is relevant for our analysis of compliance with the Federal Voting Rights Act. The citizen voting age population is prepared by the American Community Survey, which is that's a division of the census. And what it is a measure of voting strength for minority groups. And it estimates the number of eligible voters that qualify to vote based on their age and their citizenship status. Again, the largest protected class based on citizen voting age population are the Hispanic Latino voters, and the second largest is the Asian voters at 24%. On this slide, we have the existing trustee voting areas for the district. Just to orient you on the map, the colors that are shown here represent the voting areas for all of the board seats. And so starting in the northeastern portion of the district, trustee area 1 is in yellow, and then really working in a clockwise fashion. In green is trustee area 2. In the red color is trustee area 3. And then moving northwest from there is trustee area 4 in blue. And then finally, trustee area 5 is in the pink or purple color. We've included the red outline here, which is the high school attendance boundaries for the district's various high schools. Those are also included on the map. We've included that because that was an item of interest when the district originally transitioned to voting by area as opposed to voting at large. So we've included that here for reference. On this slide, we've included the demographic analysis for the existing trustee areas. Again, this is based on 2 different data points. You will see that for each of the trustee areas, there are 2 columns, one labeled TP, and this represents the total population, and another that is the citizen voting age population, or CVAP. So we have included that for each one of the trustee areas. In the black columns, you will see that citizen voting age population. Up at the top, the total population is 399,455. And when we do the math exercise, when we divide that total population by 5 different trustee areas, what that tells us is that the average size, or the ideal size, if things were balanced perfectly, would be 79,891. The variance, as I showed on a prior slide, when we look at the difference between the largest and smallest areas, is 9.0%. And then I will also point out just a couple of things here. There is one protected class majority district based on citizen voting age population that is in trustee area 1 for the Hispanic Latino voters at 55.8%. And then there are also 2 pluralities. Again, we are looking at to be in compliance with the Federal Voting Rights Act to ensure we're not dividing communities or neighborhoods such that it impairs the ability of a protected class to elect the candidate of their choice. Now, I'm going to pause for a second. I'm sorry, I just looked at the comments, and I can stop here, although we have gone through a few slides, and allow the interpreter to make a quick announcement, if that's okay. My apologies. Okay. I'm sorry, I misread that. It looks like there's a different comment, and we can come back to that after this presentation, and we can speak to that. So moving on to the map scenario that we have prepared, I just want to point out first that there is information that is contained on the district's website that is related to this process. If you go to the homepage, there is a quick link that shows up just as the page loads up, and will take you to the dedicated redistricting webpage that the district is hosting. Additionally, if you don't find that or see that, there is a quick link in the drop-down menu above. If you click on board, and then what'll show up beneath there is this link for establishing trustee area boundaries. And if you click on that, it will take you to this page. What is also included on there is a comment form so that you are able to submit comments about maps perhaps, or ideas for how different boundaries could have adjustments. So that is there on the district's webpage, and the board would like to hear from you if you do have comments. So in our first, really the only scenario that we have prepared at this point, what we've looked at is creating a map that makes minor adjustments in order to balance trustee areas. And as I mentioned before, the largest area is trustee area 2, and the smallest area is trustee area 1. So we focused on dropping the variance between those two particular trustee areas based on input that we received from the Board of Education. So what you'll see on this slide is again that same map. What we've included here is a purple boundary, and that purple boundary represents where the existing trustee areas are. So we made changes along the border of trustee area 1 and 2, moving the line basically from State College Boulevard from across Lincoln to East Street, and then moving really northeast along Sycamore, and then north up Buttonwood, and then finally going from Acacia here to the district's upper boundary. Those changes, you'll remember that the district's current trustee areas have a variance of 9%. What this did is dropped that variance to 2.1%. And the legal threshold that trustee areas must comply with is a variance of less than 10%. So the district's current areas technically comply with current law, but the board expressed some interest in reducing that variance even further. So this scenario achieves that closer population balance at 2.1%. Now, this scenario was drawn in consideration of balancing the populations, again, between areas 1 and 2. But a noteworthy detail is that we were also, in the process of doing that, created a second majority protected class district in trustee area 2. And then, so based on citizen voting age population, there are 2 majority Hispanic Latino voting districts in this scenario. So once again, if we look at the variance for this scenario is 2.1%, and as was previously mentioned, those adjustments also resulted in these 2 circled areas where there are now 2 majority protected class districts, again, based on citizen voting age population. So where we're at in the timeline now, we have presented this information to the board at 2 board meetings, one in October, one in November. Tonight, following this community input meeting, we will go back to our map making and make any additional scenarios if necessary, based on your input and based on input received from the board. We will be looking to present to the board again in January, on January 13th, and do that iterative process where if there are additional maps that are requested, we will produce those with the idea of adopting a final map at the February 3rd meeting. Again, the deadline for this process, based on California law, is that we need to adopt an updated map if necessary by February 28th. So we will, following that, we'll submit that information for to be put in effect for the November 2022 election. So that is the end of our presentation. I will pause and see if there's any questions. Either given the small group that we have here, you can unmute yourself and ask that question, or if you want to raise your hand, I can call on you. You can also put comments into the chat and we can take questions and comments that way. Real quick, I will just go back to the chat and it sounds like there was the comment was, can I make a comment on the really short notice given on this meeting? Please send invitations in a more timely manner. Thank you. Thank you for that input. I think that there was some time that was given ahead of time, but perhaps that didn't reach everybody the way that we would hope. Are there any questions that I can answer related to the process that perhaps I didn't cover, or we also have the district's attorney that can respond to any questions just about the law associated with this. I am a parent at Sycamore Junior High School, and we got the invite after 6 p.m. yesterday. Thank you for letting us know about that. We will do our best to make sure that we're keep giving people advance notice and allowing them to be able to weigh in on this process. Like I said, the board wants your input and wants your feedback. So thank you. Hello, Angelica. Do you have a question or a comment for us?
No, I'm sure. I don't know what's happened, so I need to know more.
Sure. Why don't I just reiterate what this process is all about? So the trustee voting areas that we are talking about tonight have to do where each board member is the area that they are elected from. What that means is that the election system that the district has, each board member must reside in a particular area, and the voters from that area that also reside in that area are able to vote for that particular candidate. What it's intended to do is to further the goals and the intent of the California Voting Rights Act to ensure that protected classes of voters are not disenfranchised, and that we do not impair their ability to elect the candidate of their choice and also to influence the outcome of an election.
Okay.
And so this process, because we are required to have trustee voting areas that are balanced in population, that is a federal law and requirement that we have balanced populations to comply with the one person, one vote constitutional doctrine. And so this process is rebalancing that, because after the census data comes out, it shows that communities and neighborhoods have changed in terms of their total population. So we want to bring those populations back into balance so that each area is roughly the same size.
Okay. Okay, and when is the election?
The next election for board members will be in November of 2022, and the district's elections alternate, so they're staggered. Some board seats are up in 2022, and others will be up in 2024.
Okay.
I hope that helps.
I will try to figure it out. So thank you.
You know, again, I think that's a good time to just go back to the district's redistricting webpage, which has a lot of information there that will tell you more background about this process. It also has the map that we've presented tonight and the presentations that we have shared with the board up until this point. So that may help to answer some of those questions. And I know the district, again, there is a comment form there. If there are additional questions that you have, you could submit those through the comment form, and then we can follow up and make sure that you get the information that you need.
Oh, in this, they have selected each board member to take it the one.
I'm sorry, Angelica, it sounds like you've cut out there.
Oh yeah, it was entered in one call.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem.
Okay, my question is, each represented at the part of the district, they have a one select area.
That's
and
right.
they need to live in this area or no?
Yes, they do.
Okay. So each represented live in the area for the whole community.
That's right. So as is shown on the current map here, each one of these colors represents one of the voting areas on the district board. So there are 5 areas for each one of those members. And the board member must live in that area that they represent, and only the voters that live in that area can vote for that particular board member. For instance, in trustee area 1, which is shown in yellow here, the board member must reside within that yellow area, and only the voters in the district that live within that yellow area are going to vote for that board member.
Okay. That's one I want to know, be clear.
So certainly, thank you. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. And in the chat, Mr. Wydell has provided some clarity just on which one of the board members represents each area. In the yellow area is Mr. Jabbar. In green is Ms. Randall Trejo. In the dark pink color is Mrs. Smith. In the blue area is Mr. O'Neill. And in the purple area is Mrs. Piercy. Thank you, Carl.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Rich.
Hello there.
Trustee Trejo, could you give us just a brief synopsis of the previous map, how that came to be, and then explain, I think people are they're wondering why we're doing this, and it's because of really the census data that we have, the new census data, and just could you just reemphasize that? Was I clear?
Well, I can take a shot at that. I won't be able to speak as knowledgeably to what led to the existing boundaries, but I can share with you and confirm, just to your point, that what is leading to this is the release of the census data, which was released at the end of September. And again, following the release of that data, the California Education Code requires school districts that elect their board members by area, the same way that Anaheim Union High School District does, to do an assessment of their population to see if those trustee areas are still balanced in terms of total population. Now, the legal precedents and case law, what that tells us is that anything less than 10% is considered balanced in terms of the threshold that we're looking at. But if we were to be above that, or should the board desire to make some changes, then we can make adjustments to the map in order to make those to make populations in each area more balanced. So that is why the district is looking at that at this time. Like I said, based on the law, the district's current map is balanced by based on that metric. But the board has asked us to look at scenarios where we could make that variance and lower it from 9% where it is today to something lower than that. So that is the background, just in terms of what we're trying to accomplish right now. Was that Lillian with the question? There was a good question brought up in the chat just regarding the existing map that we shared with you, and then also the adjusted map. I can go back to that and see if anybody has comments just on if they have a preference for one map over the other. Again, I am on this slide, I'm looking at the current trustee area boundaries with the colors denoted here. I will just refer. I will refer back to the yellow area is currently represented by Mr. Jabbar. The green area is represented by Ms. Randall Trejo. The dark pink area is Mrs. Smith. The blue area is Mr. O'Neill, and the purple area is Mrs. Piercy. So this is how the current map looks. And again, the demographic analysis of how they currently sit, the variance, again, based on total population for the largest and the smallest areas is 9.0%. As I mentioned, the threshold is 10%. So this complies with the law in terms of balanced population. What we heard from the board is that perhaps it would be better to have a smaller variance, and that led us to prepare an additional scenario, which is this map scenario 1. And you'll notice that the purple line represents the current boundaries, and so you can compare that with where the colors are at. And you'll see in this area between the yellow and the green that there was a shift in population, basically shifting trustee area 2 in green a little bit further west and north, and then shifting trustee area 1 in yellow a little bit further to the south. And so by doing that, the result is a variance that is reduced to 2.1%. And what we also see is that there are now 2 majority protected class districts based on citizen voting age population for the Hispanic Latino voters in trustee areas 1 and 2. So from a federal voting rights perspective, that is certainly relevant to what we're looking at here. I think we'll stick around for a little bit longer, just in case anyone shows up. But in the meantime, if anybody has questions, please feel free to, again, either raise your hand or just unmute yourself. You can also put questions into the chat, and I'm happy to answer those. For anyone that has joined us late, I just want to let you know that we have presented some information about the district's efforts to rebalance population within their trustee voting areas. So this affects board members and their voting areas. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those or to direct you to some resources on the district's website that might help to give you more information about this process and what the district is considering at this time. I think there may have been one or two people that joined us a little late. And so happy to, again, answer any questions or discuss any of the information presented tonight. Well, I will ask one more time if there are any questions or comments regarding the presentation and the maps. Does anybody have anything they would like to ask or to bring up? With that, I'll ask if either Carl Weidel with the Anaheim Union High School District or Michael Toy, if either of you have anything that you would like to mention before we wrap up.
Thanks, Justin. I just want to thank you for the presentation. I think you did a terrific job. I appreciate everyone who joined us this evening. I don't have any questions or anything else to ask or add. If Mr. Toy does, this would be a good time for him to do that. Otherwise, again, thank you for everything that you did tonight.
Thank you all.
Hi, Carl. Mike Toy here. I think you presented everything in accordance with the California Education Code and the California Voting Rights Act and the Federal Voting Rights Act. So I'm good on my end.
Great. Well, I will just second that and thank you all for joining us and participating. And stay tuned for more information. Again, the district's website is a great resource for questions and information about this process and what they will be considering. Thank you all and have a great night.